Hello everyone, we're the Wastewater Management Group. In this video, we'll be discussing the methods of wastewater management and its specification to our city.
Due to the density of an urban environment, there is not always room to construct wastewater treatment plants in the heart of a coastal city. To combat this, cities will often establish pumping stations. These structures handle raw sewage carried by downward-sloping pipes located throughout the city. The sewage is stored in pits called wet wells that are found within the pumping stations. When the sewage-filled water reaches the predetermined level, the pumping process begins. The wastewater is pushed upward through pressurized pipes into a series of additional wet wells and pipes until the wastewater reaches its destination, which is most likely a wastewater treatment plant in the outskirts of a city. Oftentimes, blockages occur in these pipes caused by sediment and fat buildup. This is problematic because the cleanup process is very costly. In addition, wastewater that is released into streams upon the flooding of sewers is contaminated with fat, oil, and grease products. Once the water reaches the wastewater treatment plant, it goes through a preliminary treatment to remove large objects from the water. The wastewater is passed through a bar screen to capture items that often include branches, leaves, and plastic wrappers. This solid waste is then removed and disposed of in landfills or incinerated.
After big solids are removed from the bar screen, the wastewater is passed on to the grit chamber. The wastewater is slowed down so that smaller solid particles like sand, grit, or stones can settle to the bottom. In the settling tank, sludge is left to sink to the bottom, while oil and grease are left to float. Oil and grease can be removed and treated separately, and they are sometimes recycled for soap making, while sludge can be disposed in landfills, incinerated, or used as agricultural soil amendment. Now, the wastewater is ready for the secondary treatment. The secondary treatment stage exists to degrade the biological content derived from human waste, food, and soap. Conventionally, treatment plants would dissolve oxygen into the water in the aeration tank. This helps bacteria and protozoa to grow and feed on the biological content. These bacteria are removed later on too. Now, the water doesn't smell that much, but to further improve the water quality before discharging it into sensitive ecosystems like coral reefs or estuaries, the water can undergo nitrogen and phosphorus removal or disinfection. After all this, the water can be finally discharged into nature or reused in agricultural or urban settings.
The sludge treatment process is part of the secondary treatment process, and its primary focus is on the reduction of sludge weight or volume in order to decrease disposal cost. By decreasing the volume of sludge, cities also reduce potential health risks and odors. There are various methods of sludge treatment, and the choice of the sludge treatment depends on the volume and financial cost. Therefore, in cities like New York, Abu Dhabi, and London that has a limited amount of land available, aerobic digestion and mechanical dewatering are preferred. The steps of sludge treatment process begins with the thickening of the sludge by stirring the sludge with the addition of a clarifying agent. After, water is extracted from sludge by filtration or evaporation. The sludge is treated through a variety of digestion techniques. For example, anaerobic digestion uses bacteria in a fermentation tank to break down proteins and sugar into simpler compounds such as water, carbon dioxide, and methane. Another method is aerobic digestion, which allows bacteria to rapidly consume organic matter and convert it into carbon dioxide. Products of sludge treatment could be used as fertilizers at the end or dumped into a drying bed.
New York City's wastewater management system consists of 93 pumping stations, 14 treatment plants, and thousands of miles of sewer pipes. The treatment plants are located throughout the 5 boroughs, and many have unique qualities. The North River Wastewater Treatment Plant, for example, is the first and only wastewater treatment plant in New York to have a state park built on top of it. The plant itself extends several stories underground, while the roof boasts a popular recreational facility. It received the Water Environment Federation's Award for Outstanding Achievement in Water Pollution Control in 1994. Another unique plant is the newly restored Newtown Wastewater Treatment Plant in Brooklyn. This structure, the largest of the 14 plants, manages 18% of the city's wastewater, treating an average of 1.5 million gallons of wastewater a day. The plant is home to the famous digester eggs, which are illuminated at night and can be seen from many parts of Brooklyn and Manhattan. In 2012, when Hurricane Sandy struck the eastern coast of the United States, New York City's wastewater treatment suffered $100 million worth of damage from seawater inundation in the facilities. The Department of Environmental Protection worked around the clock to repair damaged pumping stations and pipes, and just 4 days after the storm, 99% of New York's wastewater is being treated. In response to the storm, the DEP established the Wastewater Resiliency Plan, which calculated possible future costs and created new preventative measures to better the resiliency of the wastewater treatment system.
Alright, now we will discuss the wastewater management in the case of UAE, particularly Abu Dhabi. The reclaimed water is used for irrigation purposes in the parks. Due to the arid climatic conditions in Abu Dhabi, there are no reservoirs, and hence treated water goes back to the sea, ocean, or the rivers. Some of the treated wastewater, almost 6%, is used for forestation in the desert areas of Abu Dhabi. The Al Watba Wetland Reserve in Abu Dhabi was formerly in an area of a salt flat. The salt flat became waterlogged during winter rainfalls, and that presumably resulted in subsurface flow and hydrostatic backup during spring high tides. There was an accidental discharge of overcapacity treated sewage water from Al Mafraq wastewater treatment plant. The discharge had an unintended but positive impact on the biodiversity of the region and is now maintained by a regular supply of tertiary treated fresh water from a nearby sewage treatment plant. After a successful breeding of the greater flamingo in 1993, Al-Watba was declared a natural reserve by the late President His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan in 1998. It is currently a home to a wide variety of fauna and flora due to various range of habitats including freshwater lake, saline lakes, and tall reed marshes, sand dunes, and sabkha. Thank you.
The management of sewage water in the City of London is managed by a company called Thames Water that serves all of Greater London. Around the time of the 19th century, the Thames River was an open sewer that had disastrous effects, including a cholera epidemic and a great stink of the Thames River in 1858. The terrible smell and fear of the spread of disease caused a need to revamp the sewage system. Civil engineers helped to design an underground sewage system that redirected the waste from the city center to the Thames estuary. Gravity causes most of the water from sewage eastwards. Chelsea, Deptford, and Abbey Mills pumping stations were made with the goal of raising the water and providing an efficient amount of water flow. The Northern Outfall River takes in water from sewers north of River Thames. This water then feeds into a large wastewater treatment plant in Beckton. The Southern Outfall Sewer takes in water that comes from south of the Thames and then feeds into a treatment plant at Crossness. The Thames Tideway scheme is underway to increase the carrying capacity. The project is said to take 15 years and is estimated to be completed by the year 2020.